Hey guys, what's going on? Legendary Talks here. Very excited. We have my good. Oh, what's up, Frank Roberts? Hey Leslie. Hey Dee. We're about to talk to Dee TrannyBear, a great friend of mine. I'm very excited to talk to them. Oh, perfect. Right on time.
Hi.
Hey,
Yes. No, I dropped my ring. What's up, baby?
Damon.
Hold up one moment. Let me situate this. Okay, let's see. Is that good? Oh no, wait, I gotta drop this a little lower. My bad. Hi y'all. Hi everybody. Okay. Let's see if this works. Is this bright enough?
It's bright enough, yeah.
All right, cool. Awesome.
Okay.
What's up, Damon?
How are you? How you feeling?
I'm good. I can't complain, honestly. Is the AC too loud? Should I turn it off? It's good.
No, you sound great. You look great.
Lovely. Good. I'm
How
happy to hear
how
that.
you feeling?
Good. I really can't complain. How's everything with you?
Good. I'm here in LA, and beautiful weather. We're about to get shut down again, but not complaining either. So
Okay, are y'all you quarantining again, or what's the tea there?
I don't really know. It's like we will probably be. It's like it is what it is. Hey Deja, we just got Deja join. Olivia
Yes,
Doe.
it was here. Let me
Okay.
know. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I just wanted to adjust this the right way. Okay, now for it.
So first, I want to thank you for doing this. I love you. I'm very thrilled. You're doing this. We've been trying to do this for about a couple weeks now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want some people that maybe are joining right now that don't know you. You are a fabulous hairdresser.
Hairstylist, please don't call me hairdresser. Thank you.
Sorry. First off,
It's okay.
listen. Let me open the door. Please correct me with anything that I'm saying incorrectly. This whole conversation. How about that? Okay.
Oh, but that's what it's all about. We hold each other accountable, right? Ain't that it?
It's all love. Love back and forth. So you're a fabulous hairstylist.
Thank you.
And you have done, I know, like you did those amazing things for Kahinde. What are some other things that you've done that people may know, or some things you want to just kind of talk about?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Dee TrannyBear. Hi, everybody. I'm a non-binary, gender-conforming hairstylist. My pronoun is they, them. Just so we put that right out of the way. Well, me and Deja Smith own our own company, Double D Production, which I'm actually in the DD Pro studio at the moment. Up in Washington Heights. Well, we've really been working for the last 7 years, trying to really get our name out, and we've had some incredible clients to work with. Lauren Cox, our sister, really a trailblazer, incredible. With Candy Wiley, of course, that's how we know each other. Incredible artist, visionary. Really incredible to get to work with him, honestly. And yeah, lots of different clients. It's beautiful to have a lot of people within our own community that we work with. That's really beautiful. A lot of actresses and people that just, are community leaders.
You've got a lot of my friends' hair. You've got a lot of my friends' hair and dyed that.
Erica, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
Erica. I think she's out here. First of all, shout out to Deja. I just want to kind of sidebar. Deja, who is your, you guys are soulmates in a lot of ways, and you're so wonderful.
That's my sister, honey, and my rock.
Deja is amazing, such a wonderfully kind, just amazing soul, and I love her very much. So just shout out to her. I think she's watching right here. I can see her. Okay, so we love you, Deja.
There she go, Lady Deja.
So yes, you are a fabulous hairstylist, and I just want to make sure people are know that about you and can kind of follow you, and if they need some amazing
Yes,
I wish you had.
If y'all ever want to hire a queer team of people, we're right here. We got a whole team with us that work with us. They're amazing artists that really deserve a chance to get some foot in the community, in the industry. So hey, hire us.
All right, so do you remember when we met? Because I do.
Well, I feel like we met actually the first time in Kahinda's house, because that's when really kind of it was like the after party after one of the exhibit opened, and then you already had met Deja, y'all already knew each other, but we haven't met yet, so that was pretty kind of cool, because that whole evening was like.
But I remember you were at, first of all, Kahinde made this too, by the way. Kahinde Wiley, we're talking about. Both of our mutual great friend. we're kind of Candace's crew. You, me, and Deja. You mean so? So we were at the piano and it was you and Deja and we met and I thought, wow, you're just such an interesting, cool person. And I was naturally, like everybody else, kind of like drawn to you and kind of everyone falls in love with you when they first meet you. So, you know, it's just like, I think that, you know, it was just really great to meet you in that context too. You know, we definitely got a chance to like vibe, and it wasn't just like a nice to meet you. We were sitting next to each other literally, and like, you know, we were vibing.
Right, exactly. Back by the piano on the couch. Like that was so funny. But you see, that's the beautiful thing. That's what I love about Cahinda's crew in a way, you know, because there's all different artists just joining together, and it's such a beautiful energy to be free and really just live your life and not have to worry about explaining yourself, any of that.
Well, he's amazing. Yeah, he's amazing because he just supports people he loves. I love that about him. You know, so definitely loves you and Deja. But so I was thinking about you and I was thinking we have a few things in common actually. Well, first of all, we're both Pisces. When's your birthday?
25th February.
Yes. So I think that, you know, something we have in common is that our appearances are very vibrant and kind of loud and kind of vivid and all these things, but our personalities are so chill. And I think that's, you know, because you're like me in that same way. I think our image and our personality don't necessarily go together the way people would think. I mean, you know, we know they do, but like, you know, I think that a lot of people think that like I'm going to be shady and all this stuff based off of, you know, that I have a fur on my, you know, my shoulder or whatever, and I'm sure they probably do the same thing to you, and you're not, you're like me that way. You're so down to earth, you're so chill, such a sweetheart. You mean, so. Thank
you. Well, I mean, honestly, I do agree with that because, like, you know, people judge kind of like the book by its cover, right? So it's like, anytime I walk in a room, you know, everybody thinks it's like a show coming up. I was like, I'm just being me, y'all, okay?
Yeah, really like, I'm just going to the drink at the martini. You're like, yeah, but I think, you know, I think that's part of your charm is that, you know, you have this kind of like, you know, large personality, a large look, I'm sorry, but your personality is so like kind of demure in a way. And I love that about you. So, you mean, and literally every single one of my friends that has met you has fallen in love with you. So you know that, but you mean.
I appreciate that. Well, look, I've been a bundle of joy since I've been young. Like, I can't change that. That's me. That's always been me. Like, but really, honestly, I think like my happiness really blown out even more once I became really into my own self. Yep. And really became comfortable with me. So like I think that's why it's like when people meet me, they kind of like can feel the bubbliness. You know, like, I just can't help it. It just happens naturally.
No, you definitely are a light in any room. You mean so? But it's coming from within. You're right. So it's a warmth that comes from within you. That's great too.
And you know this though, like you know when people like just they look at you, you have the fur on, you know, you all decked out, and then people be like, oh yeah, I don't know. Probably like the shady one, and I'm like, no, that's not it. Don't believe the hype, honey. Don't judge the book by its cover.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've dealt with it my whole life, basically. I had Sharon Tudor, who owns Oma Beauty, on my talk, and she was saying that we met on a work thing. We did a walkthrough together, and I came in with my glasses and all my jewelry and stuff, and she said, oh, this is going to be a diva. And then as soon as I opened my mouth, she was like, that I couldn't have been more like, you know, on point and humble and all these different things. So like, you know, I think that you and I definitely have that in common. I was thinking about it today. And it's rare. To be honest, I think it's rare. And, you know, maybe you're right. What you said is that you kind of like have come into your own, so to speak, more. And I think both of us kind of know who we are. And as a result, we are comfortable enough to not be kind of that way. We can be pleasant and warm and, you know, humble and all those things. I think people are not, they're not there yet, a lot of people. You mean? So.
Exactly. I mean, I do have to say this, though, like, it all depends also on the approach, right? Like how people approach you. I mean, I'm not gonna be like all smiley if somebody wants to come at me sideways. You know, so I will definitely defend myself. But in general, I'm not nasty to anybody because that doesn't make any sense. Because karma is a bitch, honey, and she will come around, honey, darling.
First of all, we ain't no dummies and we both tough. So I mean, but my point is that, you know, the reality is, we both operate on a humble level that I think people like us don't. You mean a lot of people like us don't, basically. So you mean, so kudos to you, love you. So kind of in the same vein, what are some misconceptions people may have about you that you think?
Well, I would like to say, like, just in general, for non-binary queer people, like, we always get, like, made out to be these kind of, like, objects. We're never really, like, a human being, which I feel like that we really need to address, that you gotta leave our humanity within ourselves. Like, you know, because I think it's really interesting. People really just assume just because like, you know, you're really glamorous on the outside, you don't have any values, you're not really about anything, you just want to put on a show. Like I even had a woman literally like physically attack, like hit me once and say like, well, you do this for attention, so get with the program. I was like, you like didn't slap you, like you just hit me. You know what I mean? It's like these assumptions of just because like, you know, we're so like out there without expression, that means that people can just do whatever they want with us. And I'm like, no, we're human beings. Like we deserve the respect that everybody else does too.
And there is something like they think we owe them something, because I remember you and I were at Kahinde's Times Square opening together, and they were coming up left and right, taking pictures to both you and I, and they were being, you know, not necessarily nice about it. They were just kind of like, you know, just like
that was like the tourist crowd. Like that was like, especially the ones that were kind of like hollering at us. You know, so like folks that really just don't know anybody, they just thought there was something happening. It was crazy.
I was standing right next to you. To our credit, we both graciously were saying yes to everybody, but it wasn't coming from a place of celebration. Some of it was kind of like coming from a place of like
they thought it was a show.
Yeah, exactly right. That's a great way of saying it. They did think it was a show, and we're like, no, we are being ourselves, both of us. So, okay, so you're from Europe, right?
I am. I was born in Italy. I grew up in Germany.
Yep. So it's so interesting because when you told me that, after I knew you for a couple of years, when you first told me that, you just had such a New York, Washington Heights, Harlem vibe. I was shocked. I didn't know that about you at all. It's so funny to me because you have a very uptown vibe to you. It's so funny.
Well, I mean, I've always been good at languages. I mean, since I've been a kid, I was writing, reading, and speaking Italian, German, and English. Like because in Germany you have from the 5th grade up English every day. So when I was already like a kid, you know, a young kid, I was able to just like switch languages like that. So I think when I came here, I definitely had more of a European accent to me. But then being here for 12 years in New York, you hear how people talk, and it's so funny because I just have an ear for languages because I've always had, and I talk like this. I can't even change it anymore. People are like, "Oh, you're a New Yorker." I was like, "No, but I'll take it."
Okay, so you're in Europe. What's the first song you really remember connecting with as like a young person, young child?
Oh wow. Jesus. Well, Michael Jackson definitely a lot because huge in our household. People love Michael Jackson for sure. Any of them, but oh God, what was the name of the song? So They Don't Really Care About Us was one of the songs that really like stood out to me the most.
Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah.
I mean, we can't forget Beyonce. I'm sorry, I'm like the queen. I love my queen. So, Beyonce. Like, I got to meet her actually in a meet and greet when I was 18. I just had moved to Berlin. This was like mad crazy. I called a radio station, won this ticket for the Beyonce experience back then in 2008. Wait, no, 2007. Oh my God, this is so long ago. And that was really kind of like a surreal moment because I was such a fan of hers, and then getting to meet her in person.
Oh, wow.
I did a picture, like, it was like a group of folks, right? And I mean, Lord have mercy. I was not who I am now. Like, I was not as comfortable expressing. So yeah, that picture's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but that's kind of a defining moment in your development. If you think about it, you mean that probably helped you, maybe gave you the little nudge you needed at the time. Who knows? You know?
I think also, you know what helped? Also, it's interesting because we have definitely American television shows in Germany too, right? Like, you know, being translated. And when I was really young, I watched Nanny a lot. Like, remember the show with Fran Drescher? And so her quirkiness and like bubbliness and like all of these fashions that she just was like all crazy, that really inspired me. And then, you know, Boy George, definitely like super big Boy George fan just because like they were so out there. And then I also like found out about Kevin Amians, which was kind of like changed my life because I was like, okay, my sisters.
That was still Kevin Amians you found out about when you were in Europe still?
Yeah, Kevin Amians in Berlin. I found out about Kevin when I moved to Berlin, and that really kind of like, I was like, wow, I feel like I see somebody that I can really like relate to because they were never really in that, like they've always been themselves. They've never really molded themselves into a mold and were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just be that and that's it. No, they've always kind of like explored and been, you know, creative with themselves, and that really definitely inspired me.
First of all, I love The Nanny and I love Boy George. Those are great. I was going to ask you, one of the questions I was going to ask you is like, what were kind of your style, some of your style, early style inspirations, but I think you nailed it with Boy George. The Nanny is so underrated for style.
Oh,
And
down, honey. That was an amazing show.
I love everything about her. I'm going to have, I think, the stylist of The Nanny I'm going to have on this show because I think her style was so amazing, The Nanny, you mean? Okay, so you're in Europe, and then you moved to New York. Like what year or how old were
12
you?
years ago. I got here in '08, in October '08, which actually then makes that my 12-year anniversary this October.
And why did you move to New York, kind of generally?
The city always kind of like drawn me. When I was a kid. Do you know this movie called Daylight with Sylvester Stallone? It's like this. It's like a like action quote unquote movie, but it like that's one of the things when I seen that movie. I was really young, and just the life of the city. Something said about like it really literally was. I felt like it was calling me, and then when I came here for the first time in 2007, just to visit.
Yeah.
Literally, I was here for a week and a half, and then I flew back home. On my way back home, I literally cried the entire time because I was like, oh my God, I found a home. I literally found home. It felt like I was home. Even though I lived in Berlin, and Berlin is a really dope city, and especially right now, if you think about Berlin is super, super funky and cool and out there, but it wasn't that really, like it was out there, but not as New York is, especially 12 years ago too. Yeah. You know, so like that's definitely something that the city has always kind of like drawn me to, but when I came here for the first time, oh my God, that's all she wrote. Like, cause that was really like, I'm home!
Yeah. The same thing for me. I came on 4th of July weekend, and then I moved there within that year. I came to visit, I moved there in the same year. So yeah, also the movie that kind of inspired me to come to New York is the movie Flashdance. So I saw Flashdance, and as a young kid, she didn't live in New York, but in my head, I thought she lived in New York. I was too young to like understand she didn't live in New York. So I want that life. I want a loft like that. I want to be, a stripper at night and an electrician during the day. I want that life. So I moved to New York. I think sort of, in the back of my head, it's because of that movie. So isn't that interesting? Wow. Movies. And then what was your first year in New York like?
Okay. Well, I moved here when the recession right on hit, so that was quite interesting. And kind of like because I've trained as a stylist, as a hairstylist in Berlin, and then I literally like right after I came here, so I just kind of like became my own entity and worked for myself, and then like once I met Deja, we kind of like started our own business. Then this freelance life has been with me since I came here, so I've been literally a freelancer for the last 12 years. And it's definitely been interesting. I mean, the first year was definitely intense because it was super exciting because I got here when Obama got elected. So that was amazing. And then, of course, with the economy being funny, that was a little tricky, like really figuring out. But I just stuck to what I know. I love hair. That's what I do. And I was always being me. And clients definitely like were drawn to that. Like they love the light that they get once I get to do the hair.
And then, because I would say, after your first year in New York, you learn everything you need to know. If you can last one full year in New York, you learned every lesson you already need to know, you're good to go. Because it's that first year, that's the defining year, I think, for everybody in New York, that very first year.
Definitely, but I do think, though, that when you move to New York, it's the first 3 years to me, to be honest with you, because I feel like that the first year is really rough. The second one, you kind of like figure your way out, and then the third one, you start realizing things that you didn't even know that they were there. So I think that New York, definitely you need a while to, I mean, I feel like LA is probably similar to, even though it's way more chill than New York is, but New York definitely has this, you constantly explore. And that's a beautiful thing about the city, because you find all these like amazing, like, I mean, 3 years in, I found Beacon's Closet, I lost my mind, okay?
And then who, besides Deja, who was your first kind of tribe in New York? Your first crew?
Well, I mean, no, honestly, like, when I first moved here, I moved here because of a partner and all that, but it wasn't really my tribe. And then when I actually met Deja through Harmonica Sunbeam, which is a famous drag comedian, we kind of, it clicked right there. I was like, it really felt like I found my sister. So it's really interesting because it was so natural between us because we met through our mutual friend. And so we just then all of a sudden like picked up from there. And even started working with each other. So it's just like everything just happened because it was meant to happen. And that's what I really love, because then through Deja, I met so many incredible people that are literally my family now. And yeah, that's really from there. Kind of like, I really have to say Henry Bendel's was, I'm a shout out to the Bendel's days. Because Deja worked at Mac at Henry Bendel, and that's when I met like all the crew that worked at Bendel's, and from there I really kind of like just all unfolded.
Great. Yeah, no, shout out to Deja again. I know we keep talking about her. I'll have to have her on here too. She's an amazing, amazing soul and wonderful person. Oh, she's not, I see her. She's great for us right now. We love you, Deja.
We love you.
Okay, so then, so you're in New York, you're doing Bendel's, you met Deja, and then how did you kind of develop your style, I guess the New York years, let's call it, how did it kind of like,
Okay, so I think that it definitely working with her helped me understand makeup better, because my makeup skills were definitely not apart. Yeah. I used to look more on a abstract kind of like way instead of more of a glamorous way. And definitely working with her, it made me understand makeup a lot. So like that helped me to really understand what I like the most to do with my face, the way I like to express myself. So I learned from her a lot of tricks too. And then I was always inspired by so many different things, like, fashion, of course. I have my own sense of fashion. I don't like myself boxed in by nobody. I don't like other people making decisions, except if it's like somebody that I trust, like my friend Christina or our friend Clarence, like they're stylists, they're incredible. Like I would totally trust their opinion, what they want to put me in, yeah, sure. Or my sister B Hawk, for sure. They styled me down before, definitely. But like I like to kind of like make my own things up, and like I kind of like just throw it on and see, does this work? Does this not? Okay, we'll figure it out from there. I've always been that way.
Well, you're creative.
I've never seen what you call it? Like I've never stopped myself from actually also wearing women's clothes, because I love a jumpsuit. My God, I have so many. Like I'm a jumpsuit queen. So definitely I love women's wear, but I definitely like to play with, mixing everything a little bit together, because there is a balance of the masculine and the feminine anyway.
Yes, but I think that's the style of, you're a creative person, and I think, like me, I kind of I like trying anything. Like I like trying on anything, I could wear, or I like the idea of like saying I could wear, Timberland boots on Tuesday and a lace suit on, Wednesday, and like, all these different things. I pretty much don't say no to anything.
Right.
Me personally. So, and I think that, maybe you're similar in that way, in the fact that you'll try anything. Also, it's a feeling, as you know, like I have to feel good in it. It doesn't matter. I would say it doesn't matter how I look, it's how I feel. I've always said that for years. So,
Agreed. Because if you have something on, right, and even if it's the most expensive and like high-end couture, and you're not self-feeling it really, like then it's kind of like a wasted thing. Like if you really feel your look and you feel confident and comfortable in your look, then you're always gonna slay. So to me, it's very important that when I look at me from head to toe, because my whole philosophy in general is, if it's not from head to toe, it ain't right. You know what I mean? I'm like, I can't just do this and forget about the rest, or just style myself up with clothes and then not pay my mug. It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, definitely.
Are you wearing heels right now?
You have to call me out? I was like,
I'm just kidding. I'm not.
I'm a heel queen. I always want to wear a heel. I love my heels. I always have. Okay, but no, right now I'm actually barefoot.
First of all, I'm just messing with you. I know. I have no shoes on. Wait. So okay. So I wanted to have you on here because I want to talk about some things, and basically what I've learned in the last, when doing these talks, or with just the world we're in right now, is that things that are kind of obvious to me are not obvious to other people. So, my goal with this is to celebrate people, number one, which I definitely want to celebrate you, but also to share information in like a non-judgmental way, so that people can learn if they want to, kind of put the information in front of them and they can learn if they want to. So I definitely want to talk about non-binary and fluidity. I remember going to the Ackerman Center gala, I think about 7 years ago, and it was Sydney. Ackerman Center.
Now it's 6 years ago, actually, not 7. Yeah, but you're right.
How many?
6.
Yeah, so like we were sitting at the same table, it was me, you, Sydney, and somebody else, and you told me that you're fluid, and I remember turning to you and saying, "What is fluid?" And you told me. So you were the first person that I had met I guess, met, that I knew.
Well, that was actually really a special night in general because the Night of a Thousand Genders is such a beautiful celebration for trans youth in general because it's Gender and Family Project's night of a fundraiser where they really raise their funds for their organization, and it's really special because they cater to trans children and their families to do counseling, group counseling, individual counseling. So it's a really special organization. Shout out to Gender and Family Project. And yeah, so once you actually right because you had we were all there together, and so I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to get involved with it, with the organization. And then Deja and I definitely got involved with it. We're part of the board now.
Yeah, good.
The advisory council. Sorry, the advisory council. My bad. What am I saying? Board. And yeah, definitely always like helping with the Night of a Thousand Gender in general. So it's like really special, and I'm happy that an organization like that actually gets to do something like this.
Well, no, it's a great organization, and it helps, Sydney and several other people I know kind of like navigate their situation, so and it's really, really helpful and beneficial. But yeah, so you told me you were fluid, and you were the first person I think I had met, like, I guess in person that said they were fluid. I kind of like, what is fluid? And you had told me, and maybe do you want to explain kind of like fluidity, and then I guess, first,
fluidity is the word itself is already self-explanatory. You kind of like just go with the flow. You don't really. It's all about not boxing yourself in, right? Like, so to me, it's really like you have to understand that if you live in the binary, which means you're either male or female, right? Like, you kind of like limit yourself. And I've always felt like that my femininity definitely rose a lot up. And I've embraced it. So that's why I always said like I was fluid. I definitely am gender non-conforming. The term kind of like resonated with me the most, but definitely which falls in the non-binary spectrum anyway. So like it's just more self-explanatory that way for people to know. Like I like to say TGNC, trans non-binary, because so people understand like it's like a spectrum of folks, right? Like you can't. If you think of binary trans people, yes, that's a different story. They're either female or male, that's fine. But when you are...
I think, I wanted to take it back a little bit and maybe slow it down a bit so people can really understand. So you said binary trans, which would be like a Laverne Cox, correct? No.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so yeah. And
then living truthful to herself, her life, and staying with her binary that she feels comfortable in.
Yeah. But, I just want to be, take it step by step so people can really, I want people to learn. So non-binary as opposed to fluid, what's the difference between non-binary and fluid?
Well, when you're non-binary, you really don't set yourself in anything. You kind of like really keep yourself completely open to mold yourself as you see yourself. Because I don't say I'm a man, I don't say I'm a woman. Okay, I literally I like to say kind of like, to make it understand for folks that are a little bit more small-minded, I see myself as both, if that makes sense to people, you know what I mean? Because I embrace my femininity a lot. I embrace my masculinity still, but I'm definitely comfortable mixing them together. That's why, to me, the non-binariness is really where I feel the most comfortable in. Because when I was younger, when I just had turned 18, I definitely thought of transitioning. Because I thought that the ignorance, of course, of myself, like being so young and not knowing, I thought that it would make my life easier. And once I transition, everything is just going to be okay. Which is definitely not a reality, you know what I mean? Like, trans people are literally being murdered every day, and so are non-binary people. And police keeps misgendering us, and it's really a sad thing. So like that's why it's really important that we speak about these things so people understand that our lives are in danger literally daily. So when you are living truthfully to who you are, like see yourself as, it's dangerous too, because like there is people that are very close-minded and ignorant to what their beliefs are and whatnot, and they kind of like want to harm you just because you can live freely, and they are kind of stuck in that whatever taught box they got taught by their parents and ancestors and whatnot. Like, I think one thing that we really need to make clear in chats like this, especially because you white, I'm white, you know what I mean, we gotta call this out. In America, there's such a misconception about, especially these ignorant white folks that want to say like, oh, go back from where you're from. Well, baby, you're not from here either. Your family migrated here, okay? Native American, indigenous people were here from the beginning, okay? So don't say that this is your country because it never was. One, okay? What people need to understand is that we need to stop thinking about how colonizers thought hundreds of years ago, okay? Because they literally were ignorant within themselves. They had no idea of what life actually meant. They just thought, oh, whiteness is great. And that is not right, because if you think about Christopher Columbus, because that's another thing that really pisses me off, when Cuomo was like, oh, Christopher Columbus is like Italian heritage. I'm not proud of that motherfucker. I am not proud of that at all, because he murdered millions of people and brought syphilis to America. That's not something to be proud of, okay? So just for Cuomo to know, take that damn statue down in Columbus Circle, because nobody needs that. And let's rename that circle in general, just to point that out.
Preach. You mean like?
But to me, it's really crazy that we keep wanting to diminish history, right? Like, so you can never forget about slavery. That is something that no matter how hard Caucasian Americans try to sweep it under the rug, that's never going to happen. And especially also about the genocide for indigenous people. So we cannot never forget about this. You cannot, and especially like also people. You know, so many people migrated here. This is what America is in general about, like people coming here and like living their dreams. So, why would one type of people would be like, oh, there's only for us? It never was meant to be for just you. It's for everybody. So that's what we really need to make people understand, and that feeds into trans and non-binariness as well, because it's the ignorance from this colonistic kind of like thinking that we should just be this or that. But you know, if you look into indigenous teachings from any culture, Native American people, Filipino culture, Indian culture, there was literally like two-spirited people were celebrated. They were not murdered and killed because people thinking that we are objects instead of human beings. You know what I mean? So it's like these things we definitely have to talk about, because there's such a misconception here. And I mean, it's really kind of crazy to think in 2020 we're still, you know, in this kind of like narrow-minded ideal, because just as a perspective for people to understand, if everybody would have the same chance that privileged white people have in this country will be literally the richest, most powerful country in the world, okay? Because people would make massive money all over the place, and it would always be just thriving. So I'm just to understand how we like how some Caucasian people, let me not say generalize this in general, but like Caucasian Americans can be very stuck in their own ways, especially in the Midwest and in the South. And that's something that is definitely wrong, because that comes from having history taught having history taught incorrectly in even like junior high and stuff like that, because these kids are really learning that, like I saw this in a textbook and I was mortified, like I was disgusted by that. It said a house slave had a jolly life. I'm sorry, how do you even put that in a textbook? That's a lie. That is not true. That literally is teaching propaganda. Yo, we are 4 years away from Nazi Germany happening in America, okay? Like, because if you elect this trash again, then that's exactly where this is going to. Hitler took 9 years to take Germany over, so get with the program, people. We're 4 years in, okay? So, vote these people out. But white supremacists should not be able to be in the Senate. Let me just put that out there. And you know who you are, turtle face. Okay? Like, so to me it's so interesting. How is it like not against the law that police officers who are white supremacists are working, one, senators or governors or what else are there? Anyway, like people that are in office should not be white supremacists. Like, what is going on? Like, to me it's really kind of crazy to, how are we not addressing these issues, and how are we kind of like just talking around it? Like, we have to address this. Racist people should not be in power, and that's just bottom line.
I 100% agree. And, you know, I think, you know, we're going in this direction.
I know I'm directed.
No, and I want to get back to, you know.
Go for it. Bring it back.
But hold on, but the reality is, I think we've all learned so much in the past 4 or 5 months, and I think as a country and as a culture, terms like, white supremacy and systematic racism are now common terms within our country, which they weren't 6 months ago. So that, to me, at least people, I think, have learned. People have learned I think in the past, I learned in the past few, 3, 4, or 5 months, we see our government, it's the system is set up to fail. The government is kind of like, the government is basically against us as it's clear. Anyway, all right. So before we move on, so there's a movie called Disclosure, which I'm sure you've seen several times. Laverne Cox executive produced it. It's an amazing documentary that's so informative, and so many of my friends have come to me even and said, I learned so much. I learned by watching it. I think it's a must watch, and
Absolutely.
it really, shout out to Laverne Cox, first of all. I think she's an amazing human. I've known her since Lotus. I've known her since I party at Lotus in probably about 2002, 2001. And I remember her vividly just, putting her heart and soul into every dance move on the dance floor, sometimes by herself, living her best life. And she really is an amazing example for her community. And she just each year just grows more and more into that role, and she should probably run for some sort of political.
Well, I'm going to say this, like that's definitely something that I learned from her as well. Like her activism really opened my eyes up to using my own platform and my own voice for good. Like because really being around her, and we've shot something in Alabama together. This was a show called Who Do You Think You Are, where they do your DNA testing and you find out about your ancestors. And honestly, that experience was so humbling and life-changing for me because I've never actually been to the South, that far South, and then realizing all these things and seeing everything in black and white on paper, that was really like mind-blowing. But yeah, no, the way she is, she really is like 100%. Like she really does everything to 100%. That's why I'm so proud of her for doing Disclosure, because people around the world are opening their eyes like, oh damn, like we've really made a mistake here. And yeah, because it is. Because honestly, filmmakers have completely portrayed us completely wrong and glorified us to be like these either crazy people or like clowns. That's absolutely out of control.
But the whole thing about the vomiting after in every single movie was such an eye opener. I'm like, wow, it's just a really interesting, informative documentary that I suggest every single person see. Shout out to Tracy Set.
There's a lot of these type of documentaries out there. I would really suggest a lot of people also watch the the Epstein one. Like that will shock the living life out of you, honey, if you haven't seen that yet. How this man was able to do this whole thing, like this whole organization like that. Insane. Like these documentaries to me right now are so important, and I think there should be a documentary made about wrong teachings of history in America. I think that would be really great because people will really realize, oh my God, this is we've seen this completely wrong in a lot of different ways.
Jason just reminded us in the comments that both documentaries are on Netflix, by the way. Shout out to Tracy Set and MJ Rodriguez, who are also our friends who are also.
I love y'all.
Okay, so I want to ask you a couple other questions though. So pronouns, the proper thing to, I just want to make sure people are informed, like I said. So let's say someone is meeting you for the first time, should they ask you, what is your pronoun? What pronoun do you prefer?
That is the best thing to do. If you don't know, right? Like, don't just assume. Assuming is the wrong thing to do in general. But if a queer person meets you for the first time and a ally or a straight person, whatever, you know what I mean? Addresses them like, hey, what pronoun do you use? The queer person can feel comfortable because they will know that actually the straight person or the ally, whoever, actually has a little bit of an understanding of what pronouns actually mean. Yeah. So I think it's really important that's how you should start off a conversation. If you don't know, what pronouns do you use? It's really not that it's not that serious and not that difficult. It's one question. We should always be able to ask questions like this.
And so the pronouns are they, them, and what are the other pronouns? He, she?
Yeah. I mean, there's also he, them. There's nuances to non-binary pronouns as well. There's in Filipino culture, there's siya, which is really cool because it's kind of it again. Generalizes a group of folks, which is awesome. Yeah, just in general, these non-binary kind of pronouns are really nuanced within however somebody as non-binary person feels more close to. Because I have some friends that feel more close to them with a Z, right?
You're saying with a Z.
Yeah, Z.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
He and them. And so like there's like my good friend Demerel. They definitely identified with that more. Like it's interesting, just in general. Like there is certain things that you of course tend towards more, but it's really not that difficult to understand because I feel like we need to stop addressing people in that way. Like when people talk about something, right, that they always make sure to put either just he or she. Generalize it as when you speak about people in general, just say them, because it's easier, because then you don't offend anybody. Because even if somebody doesn't identify with they, them, right, it's not a wrong term to use in a sentence. So even if you speak about a woman or a man or whatever, and you say them in general, as people, as folks, it makes it a little bit easier. So you don't, like, example, can I say this real fast? For everybody should really stop saying, hey guys, hey you guys, what's up guys? Stop saying that. Because if you address people that are femme with hey guys, trust me, you ain't gonna get a nice reaction. Because if somebody comes up to me when I'm painted in a 7-inch heel and a big ass wig on and you say he, trust, my reaction is gonna be like, okay. So you know what I mean? I'm like, you can't expect people to have a nice reaction if you be ignorant towards people. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a good point because I use that term all the time. Hey guys, like kind of for everybody, but that's why these conversations I think are important because it's the little nuances that I think people can need to understand, including myself. I have a lot to learn as well. And yeah, that hey guys is a really interesting point. If you think about it, you're by saying it, you're.
It would be great if you would say hey folks.
Yeah.
That's completely like neutral. You know what I mean? Like that's
hey y'all, hey y'all.
Hey y'all, I love a good texting way, honey. And nothing wrong about a little texting way. Hey y'all.
And then you're really good friends with a look.
Oh, yeah, I'm my
Alok is a really good person to follow as well, because they, correct?
They are brilliant. Yes, they're definitely genius in their own way and with their artistry and their poetry.
Yeah, they are very, very informative and just have a lot to say about this subject, and I find them to be very interesting and informative. So, I mean,
absolutely. You know what I love about them the most is really the detail of history that they know about the non-binary and trans people, because that's what they literally like completely really dive in. Like that's what they really like specialize in the most, because they know that this is like our culture has been around for centuries, thousands of years. These whole like thing, people saying like, oh, trans is new. No, baby, never was. Always been around. Okay, so that's what I love about them a lot, because they really shout that out. They really want to make people understand. Hey, y'all need to rethink this little box that y'all think that that's just it. It never was. So that's why I said it, like what I said at the beginning of when we chatted, that we need to decolonize this planet.
What is their Instagram so people know?
Alok V Menon.
Okay. Okay, so where are some places people can go to? Let's say, or maybe you don't know, or maybe you do know. When you were 18, you said you were kind of like, sounds like you were kind of like exploring and developing. Where are some places that younger people can go if they need kind of some help or advice or someone to, help them navigate? Do you know of any places that exist?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that that's definitely, find yourself a center, find yourself a queer organization that helps. Like, I love even to see a good friend of ours, Shangela, they made like this whole show about We're Here, when they like went to all these small towns and like kind of like help people that could really like express themselves, right? And that was beautiful to see. Even in like small towns, there's queer organizations that try to help queer people. So definitely your best friend Google, okay? And that's just in general. If you don't know something, Google it. And yeah, definitely Google like queer organizations, centers, like queer centers here in New York. Of course, we have the center. Y'all have it in LA too. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are definitely great places, because you can go there and at least find even like groups to talk to, kind of like express to how you feel and where you kind of like see yourself as, or where you want to see yourself as. I think that's really empowering for a young person. Definitely find your chosen family. Like if your blood family is not there for you, make sure that your friends that are really there for you, that love you for who you are, become your family, you know, because like my chosen family is Stasia and all like my close friends that are within it, you know what I mean? So it's like, I consider them family because they are my family, you know what I mean? I'm like, even though we're not blood related, but they're my family because like they are there for me, they've always been there for me, they've uplifted me, they've been there, you know what I mean? So that's what I think.
You and Deja are soulmates in a lot of ways. Wait, so also, do you know of any places that would, like the acronym, kind of be for the parents as well? Like, I think that's a really interesting part of the story is that, you know,
Absolutely.
I think parents that don't support the situation, if they had the knowledge and a center where they could feel, I guess, heard or whatever, I think that's so beneficial. So do you know any places off the top of your head that are for the parents of these people?
Well, yeah, definitely. Like we said, the General Family Project. I think there is an organization like it in LA. I don't recall the name of it right now, but there's definitely organizations like it, and that's what I think is also smart. You should also, as a parent, if you are a parent and you don't know what to do, there is support groups. There's even though I'm not really right now supporting Facebook right now because Zuckerberg is a piece of shit, but there's Facebook groups where parents come together and like, you know, help each other and like just in general, like there's ways to find that. Like again, Google, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's not a foreign thing that there's actually support groups even just for parents. So
I do think though, you know, disclosure is definitely optimistic, ends on an optimistic, you know, tone. And I was watching Barack Obama's State of the Union about, I don't know, about 6 weeks ago or something. And there's a trans male member of city council called Philippe. I don't know if you, no one really knew him, but like I was blown away. Well, actually, Barack said, "I'm blown away by you, for Philippe," and I was just really inspired by that. To you know, in Minneapolis, where the situation happened, and you know, to have a trans male member elected, you know, I think was really, it's really optimistic to me and really great.
I mean,
and I think things are moving forward.
Non-binary people in office here in New York, like there's definitely people that been running, and also like some of them that actually been elected into it. So I love the fact that now trans. Let me put this out there real quick like that. Our philosophy in our company, Deja and I, is to elevate trans and non-binary people as much as we can, and I love to see that also within governing and in general, like in these large corporations. Also, like when it comes to like GLAAD or you know organizations that uplift queer people. Like, definitely let people that are of the experience be in charge, because if you just have gay white men run it, that doesn't make any sense, because then you are not being inclusive to everybody in the community. If people should have a seat at the table, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, if we're never going to be able to build generational wealth unless we have seats at the table. This goes also to film, TV, fashion, anywhere, any industry that is with entertainment. Like, we should have a seat at the table. We shouldn't just be like the pretty thing in front of the camera, you know what I mean? We should also have the say behind the camera, because we know what we like to wear and dress and do and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's...
Well, like you said, no, you shouldn't just be part of the show. You should actually be creating and developing it, like you said.
Exactly.
You know, like, so okay. I do want to say one more thing before we go. Thank you, by the way, for doing this. How can we support you? How can we support you? What can the viewers do? What can people do to support you? Whether it be, you know, we're going through.
I mean, I'll just talk that out. So we have a fundraiser going on for our company right now, because due to COVID, we definitely have to shut down our like in general, like day-to-day organization operations. Sorry, my bad. I tripped over my word. So if you go to our Instagram, which is Double D Production, _D_ production, you can find our little fundraiser that we're going on right now. Like, if y'all want to donate, please do. We have our own website, so check out our website too. If y'all look for queer hair, makeup, teen people, just in general, we can provide y'all with that. So definitely support our brand. We're trying to be global. Okay, we're working hard on it. So like, that's definitely something that I would say, like, if people feel like helping, please help. We always like appreciate anybody that is there and like is willing to give. Well,
you know, it's, you know, I haven't worked since February either. It's a really interesting time, but I have found that people are very supportive right now and very generous in this time. So if you are working, I think people are definitely willing to share and support I think, more than usual, which is great and really,
Right.
amazing. But so your Instagram is your name, right?
Of course.
D.
Yes, it is. Dee TrannyBear.
And then your company, one more time, was double D. What?
It's double_D_production.
Okay. And it's double D. Is 2 D's or is word double?
Huh?
Is it 2 D's or the word double?
Double, just double.
Okay,
Like
great.
spell double D production. Like the.
When I do I'm going to post this on IG. I'm going to put it in the information. So
I appreciate it very much, Damon.
thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yes, let me say this, since we were talking about just being who you are. I want to tell especially young people or anybody that's watched this who felt like they can't really be themselves, don't give a crap what people think about you. Be who you are. The best thing to do is be happy within yourself. Don't let anybody dim your own light, because when you do that, you literally like put yourself down and make yourself unhappy. Live truly to who you see yourself as. I've always been that way. I've always felt that way, and it's never guided me wrong. So I definitely want to tell everybody, please, please, please be proud of who you are. Live your life authentically to how you see yourself fit, and dismantle colonialism. Okay, please, dear Jesus.
Dee, I love you very much. I
love you. Good to see you back. I can't wait to see you back out in Cali.
Listen, I love what you said at the end. That's it exactly. Just, be who you are. It's wonderful. And, you are a living example of that. You are extremely happy. You glow. Like I said, in any room you come into, every single person I've ever introduced you to loves you and is now your friend. And, I just thank you for being you and for being my friend and for, I thank you for being you.
Thank you for this. This was beautiful.
Okay, great to talk to you. Thank you for doing this. Love you.
I'm back. Take care. Bye, everybody.